Hi, everybody. This is Dan Stolbarger. Welcome to this week's Middle East update. It's December 4th, and we're going to look back on what has transpired this week in the Middle East, specifically with Israel in mind. We always start with our news bites, but just a reminder that the PDF PowerPoint that's behind me is available. We'll send you a link. You can just get that from our YouTube page. So let's jump in. We start with our news bites. Good news is that the Thai hostage's corpse has been returned to Israel. So we are now down to one hostage left. And his name's Staff Sergeant Ron Gavili. And the phrase is first to go out, last to return. So during the battle, he was part of the Israeli police force. He was waiting for surgery upon his shoulders. But during the battle, really close to Sderot, in a kibbutz that's called Alumen, he rescued about 100 people who had fled the Nova Music Festival. He killed 14 members of Hamas, a terrorist there, before he was taken down, abducted, killed, and then his body taken to Israel. So he is the lone hostage that remains. And once again, the crazy demonic mindset of Hamas, we have no idea if he will ever be returned or if they're just going to keep his corpse in their back pocket just to create as much psychological damage that they can to Israel. So the good news is that we're down to one, but we're not done yet. Lebanon, Hezbollah, interestingly enough, as you know, the Pope Leo visited Lebanon. And Hezbollah had big banners welcoming the Pope to Lebanon. Unfortunately for Israelis, they talked about the two major Abrahamic faiths coming together. They simply omit Judaism. Think about it. Abraham, Judaism. So they welcomed in Christianity and Islam, but omitted Israel, Judaism. Okay, Pope Leo, bottom line, is making it clear where the Catholic Church stands in all this. His words, the two-state solution is the only way to resolve the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. He said this while in Lebanon just this last week. Now, shifting to Syria, and this is from our friend Amir Safati. And as you know, the Syrian president, I'll call him Al-Julani, the former ISIS terrorist, he simply put a suit on. But Trump sent a letter to the president of Syria in which he wrote, Ahmed, you will be a great leader and the United States will help you. And so Amir says, when it comes to all this, when it comes to Qatar and Turkey and Syria, I'll never understand what's going on in Trump's mind. And I have to concur. I have no idea. When we were on the border of Syria on a political Jeep tour with our friend Ilan Shulman, he went on and on and on about how in the world can we trust this new president of Syria. He's trimmed his beard, he's put a suit on, but he remains to be a terrorist. So, and then, another person that I hold in high regard, reading his articles from Israel, is Amit Segal. And he's, as you probably heard by now, Bibi's been invited for the 5th time to meet with Trump and in the States, in the White House, but I hear it might be in Florida. But something's going on. And Amit writes, "What are Bibi and Trump cooking up?" He goes on to say, "I can't say for sure, but this is very clear. Bibi and Trump are cooking something up on the military front, and they're keeping just about everyone in the dark. So we're going to have to wait and see what transpires out of all of that." Now into our major articles this week. Once again, let's go up to the Syrian border. Bibi is making it clear. He says that Jerusalem remains ready to negotiate a security agreement with the new Syrian regime, but, and this is a big but, and we know that Trump is pressuring Bibi into sort of a hands-off approach with Giuliani up in the new Syrian president. But Bibi's making it clear, we're ready to negotiate, but we will stand by our principles to prevent another repeat of October 7th, 2023. After October 7th, we are determined to defend our communities among the borders, especially up here in the north. And so once again, a high alert of what's going on and not a whole lot of trust. And then, there's this movement that it seems to be picking up traction about, free Marghouti. You need to understand, there's like 200 celebrities. I won't even give you their names, but they're calling for the release of Marghouti from Israeli jails. And I think every so often you have to say, where's this noise coming from? How many more Israelis need to be slaughtered before this pro-peace leftist movement, these celebrities who feel like they have a voice, and I still don't understand why anybody would listen, how can they kick the habit of normalizing murder? So who's this Marghouti? Many believe that he would win an election if he was released. But keep in mind, he is the mastermind behind. I listed one story here. Yola Chen went out on a cold evening in early 2002 to a wedding in Jerusalem with her 70-year-old aunt. And when they stopped to refuel at a gas station, two men approached them, simply asking, "Are you Jewish?" They asked, and when they received an affirmative answer, the men opened fire. Joanna fell onto her aunt. She died of her wounds the next day. Her murder, cold-blooded murder, was personally directed by Marwan Baghani. And there was also an attack at Tel Aviv's seafood market where there were 3 killed and 35 wounded, all once again pointing back to Baghani. And so this is the person that these celebs are saying, hey, it's been enough time, release this guy, he's changed, he'll bring peace to the Middle East. Unbelievable. Well, let's go on. We have quite a few articles this week. Palestinian textbooks, and as we know, we've talked about this many times before, there will never be a change from this legacy of intense hatred until it happens in regards to educating children. So we're always hearing about the textbooks of the Palestinians, and there's always this movement to placate the concerns that the West has on these textbooks, saying, we're going to change them. We're making significant changes. Well, a new report out just shows that Palestinian Authority textbooks for 6-year-olds, okay, first graders, they glorify jihad, they glorify martyrdom and anti-Semitism. They call Jews bloodthirsty monsters, pigs, monkeys. They teach math, and they use the number of martyrs as part of their addition and subtraction. Any maps of the Middle East erase Israel. No Israel on the maps. So when you see all this, can you actually really believe that these people still pretend that the conflict is about the land? No, it is about the existence of Israel today. When you hear those phrases concerning free Palestine, from the river to the sea, Palestine shall be free, keep in mind behind that, what that really means is we have to get rid of the Jewish nation. It all begins with the children and the youth. New York Middle School, New York City Middle School, Brooklyn Middle School principal refused a parent's request to bring a Holocaust survivor, his name is Sammy Stiglman, to speak to students about anti-Semitism, telling the parent that this is a Holocaust survivor. The principal told the parents that his pro-Israel views made him inappropriate for a public school setting. This is what we reported in the New York Post. A Holocaust survivor, his ability to share his experiences, the pro-Israel view makes him inappropriate. In the article, it said, if a Holocaust survivor cannot speak about anti-Semitism because he supports Israel's right to exist, what message does that send to students who are supposed to be learning the lessons of history? New York City. Anti-Semitic right wing. Now we're moving to our own backyard. One of the main phenomena among young Republicans today is a growing anti-Jewish, anti-Israel attitude. It's become stylish for young Republicans and young Democrats alike to support Hamas and accuse Israel, the state of Israel, of war crimes. And it's not just Tucker and Candace. It's become normalized to at least be more even-handed about Israel's war against Hamas, and usually more acceptable to accuse Israel of being the aggressor and the guilty party. The polls, we'll get to this in a second, the polls indicate that we should be overly concerned about what's taken place. And as I mentioned, it's in our backyard. The Republican Party is being tested today. We're going to have to wait and see if it can stand up to the immoral norms that are taking hold in its midst. If not, living in the United States of America will become more and more precarious for many Jews. The next article kind of goes along with it. Israel's losing U.S. support. Fewer and fewer Americans support Israel. What will their next president do? 2028's a long, 3 years away still, but with the criticism of Israel and anti-Semitism and isolationism, make America great, U.S. candidates may be turning away from their longtime alliance. Hillary Clinton, of all people, and Trump, when they spoke back at AIPAC in 2016, they gave the statistics that 62% of Americans were sympathetic to the Israelis versus 15% to the Palestinians. That gap now has narrowed to 46% Israeli, 33% Palestinian. For the first time, the poll has found less than half of Americans express sympathy for Israel today. Support for Israel is collapsing among the youth, as we mentioned, and it's not going to come back soon. This is a political reality, and we have to deal with it. We can't wish it away, and we can't cancel it away. Something must be done. I mentioned Amit Segal. His take on Gaza, I find interesting because we're still, this is one of the most bloodiest ceasefires in the history of mankind that's taken place today. But Segal, he says this in regards to Hamas and Gaza of today. He says, I'm sorry to break it to President Trump, but he's about ready to be disappointed. Hamas is refusing to disarm. They never intended to. And nobody other than Israel is willing to enter the Strip to fight this terrorist group. In other words, it's almost inevitable that the fighting will resume. The question is going to be, what's Trump going to say about it? And again, he ends by saying this. If you ask me, I think let's take our time. Let's give it a few months. Let the president's fantasies disappear and give Jerusalem time to show him that there's no other option. And you can expect that the IDF will be ready and will end this once and for all. And they will be back fighting in Gaza, no holds barred, once again. And then we have the whole issue of, will Bibi receive a pardon? He's now requested it. We know that Trump requested it when he was in the Knesset, and so it's now in the hands of President Herzog. But keep this in mind. Herzog is planning a political comeback. Once his term is over, it's a 7-year term. I think he has a couple years back left still. But the last thing he can allow himself is to let Bibi off the hook. So I don't know how this is going to spin out or whatever, but this pardon is loaded, and we'll have to wait and see about that. And then Mike Huckabee, I always want, the last time we were in Israel, a friend of ours made the comment when we talked about Huckabee. He simply said, I think Mike Huckabee every morning checks his phone to see if he's still the ambassador. I want to champion Huckabee. So this article says Huckabee is performing his duties with distinction at a time where Israel faces an existential threat on 7 different fronts. Instead of criticizing him, the Israeli media and the public should be celebrating the fact that the United States finally has an ambassador who truly understands the situation in Israel today from the depths of his heart, and he defends it without any apology or any reservation. Great job. And remember to continue to pray for Huckabee. So last up, we know that the rapture can happen at any time. We know that the world in which we're living this Christmas season, that one phrase just keeps hammering me. It's a weary world. It's a crazy world that we're living in. And yet, as believers, we're to what? We're to exhibit and be dispensers of joy, of hope, of love, of shalom, of peace in this season, because no matter what it looks like in this weary, dark world, Emmanuel, God is with us. And as believers in the times in which we're living, we need to anticipate his return at any time. And so when I saw this article, I said, I'll end with this. Europe is not just facing a political crisis. It is entering a demographic and spiritual vacuum. And vacuums never remain empty for long. Bottom line, just as seeing Christmas lights in mid-November tells us that Thanksgiving is near. Seeing a desperate, leaderless, chaotic Europe longing for anyone who can, quote, save it, tells us something far more important. When Europe is ready to receive the Antichrist, the rapture is just around the corner. At any time. This world is out of control, but we know the one who is in complete control. So, my friends, as we enter into this season, remember once again, be a dispenser and make the proclamation that Emmanuel, God is with us in the midst of all that's going on. My prayer is that you'll take a stand to support, to love Israel, that we will pray that Israelis would come to know Yeshua, Jesus, as their Messiah. So until next week, God bless you and shalom.